All right, it is pretty much top of the hour. I think we are going to get started here this evening. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to everybody for joining. You could have been doing a whole bunch of other things, but you choose the time to spend it with myself and Vaughan, and for that, we are always grateful. So today we're going to have our last conversation for the year. Can you believe it? It's the end pretty much of the year. And this is our fourth conversation quarter that we're going to discuss. And we're going to talk a little bit about information and how you act on that information. The previous one that we had, obviously, we focused on information itself, how to present that information. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about acting on the information itself. As always, we're going to then talk a little bit about enablement, what's new, what new content Clarice in the marketing department created for us. And then we'll end up with what's new on the support side. And if there's time, we'll do some Q&As. And then I'll probably only see you next year for another series or start from our side. Right, quick introduction. Who are you seeing on the screen? Thanks, Vaughan, for joining me this evening. We've got Vaughan Rampersad. He's the product manager here at Flow Software. Myself, I'm Lenny. I'm the customer success manager. And as always, thanks, Clarice, for setting this up and creating the webinar for us. All right, now, today's conversation is all about acting, right? And George Bernard Shaw, obviously great playwright, actually won the Nobel Literature Prize in 1925. He had a quote where he said that possibilities are everywhere, right? The only reason is that we don't see that is potentially we don't act and on those and not be reactive on that. So if we can act on our decisions, potentially we can have quite a big of impact in our daily lives and into our production facilities that we have. Now, the last time that we spoke about this concept about why do we find that potentially people don't act on information? Why is it that you get into a meeting and it's all about fighting about the information that's been displayed in that meeting? And that is because the whole concept of a meeting should never ever be reactive. We shouldn't look on the results that's been in the past, trying to figure out why it happened. It should be the factors that drove the results. So we must always have this concept of reactiveness in our meeting. Because if we don't have that and we start bickering and trying to figure out what the results are, then we're never going to get to the second part of that meeting, and that should be to decide and to act on. Now, the concept of IDA, it obviously stands for information, decisions, and act. It's not me that's being very clever creating a new acronym. It's a company in the UK called Optimum FX, and they are thought leaders in manufacturing improvement. And they come up with the concept that every meeting that you have should at least have these three concepts. And it is the most effective way to have real outcome out of your meetings. Now, we already covered the information part in our last conversation. And if we can get that right, if we can provide information that's accurate, relevant, and easy to understand, then hopefully the decision and the action part will follow strong suit. And I'm going to start off with a little bit of an example of what we mean with that. First of all, every KPI or every piece of information that you look at must have an objective. Okay, else why are you looking at the screen? Why do you have that gauge on your report? Now, think about a scenario that you are actually flying a plane, all right? Your most imperative directive of flying a plane is to obviously get your passengers safely from point A to point B. Now, an instrument cluster of an airplane is got a whole bunch of gauges and actual information that the pilot can make a whole bunch of decisions and act based on the information that he sees from it. But remember, it must always tie back to the objective. And the objective is to get people safely to the other side. Now, even in this scenario, it's not a meeting, it's actually driving a plane. We can actually apply the concepts of ADI in this kind of situation as well. All right, so first of all, you have a gauge on the cockpit, but the gauge is not even working. It's broken. All right, obviously that's an information problem. That we can fix. We system integrators, we engineers, we can fix that. We can put in instrumentation, we can do automation, we can put in a historian, we can fix the problem that the gauge is not working. Now here comes the little bit of the tricky part is, what if the gauge is working 100% correctly? But the pilot doesn't even look at the gauge. Okay, clearly there's a problem. How many times have you heard that people say, yeah, we've got a historian where we're not really looking at it? Or, yeah, we've got report X or report Y, but we're not really looking at it too much. Maybe the information that's being delivered is completely wrong for that individual. Maybe we need to relook at the way that we are displaying that information to the individual. So if it's the wrong thing for the wrong guy, he's not going to make a decision on it, right? I always use a very simple analogy. Obviously, I need to deliver the people safely when I'm flying, but I've got a instrument or a cluster on the gauge there that tells me what is the direction I'm currently going in. But right in front of me is a massive mountain, okay? Is that going to help me? Probably not. Probably the altitude is a little bit more conducive of what I actually need to do, else I'm going to fly right into that mountain. So make sure that you deliver the right context to the right person and to the right people. And very importantly, maybe into different tools and different places and different pieces of technology, maybe on their mobile phone, maybe into an application that they use every day, like a Teams application, etc. So make sure that you deliver the right context, the right information to the right people to make the decision. The last one is a little bit of a people problem. It's a process management problem. And that is, you look at the gauge is 100% correct. You trust the gauge information, but you don't pull up on the controls of the aeroplane. You still go straight into the mountain. Obviously, that is an action problem. The problem is if we don't get the information in such a way that people can make a decision on it, then obviously you're probably never going to act on that information in any case. And unfortunately, all three of these components need to work in harmony for you to actually make a proper decision. Vaughan, I know you had other analogy here for this as well.
Yeah, Lenny, it's actually around an interview with a pilot that I read about once. He actually said that experienced military pilots have been known to fly upside down for a while at night because they thought that the lights on the ground were the stars. And so even though the instruments were telling them the right thing, even though they had the right info, their instincts kicked in and made them act incorrectly. So just your example is accurate. We have to follow the information and make decisions and act based on that information.
Correct. And unfortunately, sometimes, as we saw in the last conversation, people act with their gut, their instinct, or even with their self-interest. And obviously, try and trust the information and act rather on that. Okay, so we've got a different objective. We're not flying planes. Obviously, we're doing manufacturing. And we've got a different objective that we're trying to achieve. All right, so this is our objective. We are on an initiative to actually implement OEE on our line. And the objective of the OEE project that we're going to do is that we want to improve our OEE by 15% in the next 6 months. Okay, sounds like quite a tall order. But why do we want to do this? We've got quite a lot of product that we send to other companies. We call them co-packers to actually pack for us. But we are almost 100% sure that we actually do have the capacity in-house. So if we can sort out our OEE issues, then potentially we can get rid of all the co-packers and we can actually do everything ourselves in-house. All right, now here's the problem. This is an OEE solution or OEE project that you're going to do, right? But you're going to meet completely different people in this whole journey that you're going to end up with. So you're going to meet some of these guys, right? First of all, you're going to meet operators. Now, an operator is there to operate the clock, right? So his interval control or the action or the levers that this guy pulls is of a short interval. So he probably looked at things to do that's going to yield him results in the next hour or two. All right, so the way that you're going to display the information for an operator needs to be able for him to make a decision and act on that decision and see the real results in 2 hours. Okay, so OEE project, right? So what are we going to do? We're going to give him a nice big OEE dial. All right, so Mr. Operator, your OEE is 60%. Vaughan, what would you do if you're an operator and you see a dial of 60% as an operator?
I have no idea where to start, Lenny. I know what my number is, 60%, but I also know it's made up of three other numbers: availability, performance, and quality. And I can't actually even control those things in real time, but there's other numbers that make up those numbers. So this is a nice number, but or is it? I don't know what to do.
Correct. All right. Remember, we want to give information for the operator that he can make a decision on in less than 30 seconds. That's what we learned the last time from the dashboard. And he needs to be able to make the decisions either to speed up the machine or call in the engineering department to help him fix a problem. But if you give him an OEE dial, he needs to now manually in his brain try to figure out how that's relate to his role that he's in control of. So what if we give him something else? What if we give the operator KPIs that he can manage that's still going to drive OEE? All right. And we're going to give him probably something like this. All that we're going to tell the operator is, listen, you've got a production schedule. That schedule is tied to a target. All right. What is your current rate? Where you're going to end up at the end of the shift? Are you going to make your target, yay or nay? And how far, what is your shortfall from that target? If I tell him, listen, you need to increase your production by 8,000 bottles an hour, else you're not going to make it, then he's got control over it. It's bottled with something that he's understand. He doesn't have to recalculate that from an OEE number. And it actually gives him information that he can either call engineering or call operations to actually help him with the next 2 hours that he needs to improve. All right. So again, same objective that he needs to adhere to, increase my OEE, but we're not going to give the operator an OEE dial. Okay. What about the plant manager? Cool. Does the plant manager have time to look at a real-time OEE trend or a real-time production number every hour as it changes? Probably not. Why not? Because they need to manage the plant, right? They need to figure out, are they working on the right projects? How do they improve the rate of their projects, make sure that they are successful? Is there any projects in the past that was good project, that was wins, that they can copy and actually improve on? So we're not going to give the same dashboard to the manager, all right? So we're going to give the manager an OEE dashboard. OEE is a great strategic KPI, don't get me wrong, but you have to deliver it to the right people in the right place. Okay, so for the manager, we're going to give them an OEE trend by week. Okay, why per week? Because the historical context is extremely important for them to know if the projects that they are working on is going to work. So we're going to give them something like this. Okay, OEE per week, right? The three components that make up OEE. And then we're going to throw in a little bit of regression analysis to show them what is the actual progress of their OEE project. Clearly, it's in an upward trend. You can clearly see their OEE is working. It was all over the show a few weeks ago. You can see there's absolutely no stability in this OEE number. The last week or so, stuff started to improve. The OEE got up and is actually stabilizing a bit. So obviously something that they've done in the past week is yielding results, and they can probably copy those results in the next project. Again, same objective, but the different way that we're going to give it to the people. So important to deliver the context in the right way and form, but also very important is to deliver it not just in a dashboard, but where they are currently working or in an app that they're currently working. We'll discuss that a bit later. Cool. So I just thought I'd paint that little picture of what we actually are working towards, and that is to sort out our OEE problem. All right, now where did we end up last time? We ended up last time to say, okay, we need to give people information that's concise and clear that they can act on, right? And we had the examples of the whiteboards where we said that this is what we probably see 99% of the time in our production facilities. And this is probably what we would like to address and make a little bit more accessible, first of all, better to understand and give it more context. Because the biggest issue with these things is there's no historical backing of the data that you see there. So that was last time's discussion. We just covered the I part of IDA. And tonight we're going to take that a little bit forward. And we're going to talk about the decide and act part. All right, just as a recap, just be very careful when you do your information side. You need to figure out who's your audience. You need to make sure that you answer the questions that they have. And maybe there's some new answers that they want you to produce on your dashboard. So we created a little bit of a dashboard based on those whiteboards, and we transformed it a little bit in our last session. So clearly adding a little bit of context, adding a little bit of color, making sure that you know where to focus on firstly, and showing the information in a way that you can actually make a decision in that 30 seconds. All right, let's extend this. Let's go to decide and act. All right, so we're going to go and see if we can create content and deliver that content in ways that people can actually decide and act very quickly on the information. All right, so I'm going to go into my flow solution here. This is obviously where we ended off with, same dashboard that I showed last time, but we're going to extend the concepts here a little bit. All right, so the first thing I want to show you is the following. All right, so I've created content, same objective, increase my OEE, but I've got different content for different people in the organization. Cool. Vaughn, you're going to play manager here a bit. Okay. You are the zone manager. All right, so what does that mean? Vaughn is responsible for a whole bunch of plants, and each one of those plants have different manufacturing lines. All right, Vaughn is very important. He's a C. What do you want to be, Vaughn? You want to be a chief digital officer, a CDO, some C level?
Any three-letter title starting with a C. Then.
Cool. There we go. All right. So Vaughn is our CDO. All right, chief digital officer. Let's do it that way. So his time is very important. So when we deliver Vaughn content, we want to make sure that Vaughn can very quickly act on that content. Okay. So we've got a zone compliance report for Vaughn. He needs to be able to figure out which lines do they need to act on very quickly. That's it. So which lines is not adhering to the current projects that they're adhering to. So we might give Vaughn something like this. All right. So what are we seeing? Cool. I'll quickly explain what we are seeing here. This is a heat map. This big red block with a little bit of green and yellow in it. This is a heat map. What does it show? It shows us each and every one of the lines and how many exceptions occurred on those lines. Okay. Red means a lot of exceptions. Okay. Green means I'm good. Right. What is an exception? An exception is I did not make my target for the day. If I can chase my target, hopefully I can increase my OEE number. All right. So Vaughn, all you have to worry about is the guys that's red. So if we look at this dashboard for today, it's green. All right. So I only had one site that had a problem. So if I look at that, I had one site that had a limit exception. All of the other sites were perfect. So you only have to focus on one site. Which site is it? Well, it's the one here right at the bottom where you can see it's quite far off from its target. Okay. Now, if we look at maybe yesterday or the day before, so this is a little bit of a heat map with history around it, we can see that yesterday and the day before, things were that rosy. So if we change the dashboard historically to yesterday, then we're going to get a different picture, right? So this will now show us that quite a lot of sites did not actually make it. A lot of lines are off the target, and you actually have quite a lot of work to do here. All right, so the point is that we can very quickly give Vaughn the information that he needs to focus on, and he only has to focus maybe on one or two of the lines, not having to go into each and every one of them. Yes, the different lines or sites that he has, and we can very easily drill down into one of these guys. So I can actually go to one of these sites, and I can actually then get the actual OEE number for that line. And now Vaughn can see what the actual problem is for that one particular line. Okay, how did I do that? How did I go and count how many limits occurred for the entire zone? Okay, let's go into Flow. This is the configuration tool. So this is where I'll model my plant. So you'll notice that I've got a zone level here. So this is what Vaughn is responsible for. And there's multiple sites in the zone. And each one of these sites have a numerous amount of packaging lines. And these are the guys that we are tracking to say, hey, are you making your target, yes or no? All right. So each one of these daily totals tracks against their target. Okay, so they all have limits. And what am I looking at here from a limit perspective? I'm looking at your daily target. So simple enough, you make your daily target, you don't have a limit exception. If you do not, then unfortunately, you're going to score against the limit exception with the zone compliance report. All right. Now, I was always able to do calculations in Flow, right? So I could go and create a calculation where I can go and look at all of the limits, and I can actually go and count them. So this is something that we've added in, and that is the capability in the calculation to actually get to the limit exceptions. All right, so this is quite cool. I can look at each individual site, and I can say, hey, did you encounter any exceptions? Doesn't matter, high exception, low exception, whatever the case is. We could have catered for those individually as well. But I say, hey, did you get an exception? Yes or no? And I just add them up and I get a total score for the entire zone or area. So it makes compliance reporting quite easy. It makes exception reporting quite easy from an area perspective or zone perspective, because I can actually go and look at these exceptions that occur in my different lines or areas. Okay, so that's quite cool. That's something to remember, is that we can actually get to the different sites limit exceptions from that perspective, add them up, and I can report on those as well. Cool. All right, so Vaughan has a quick and easy way to understand on which sites he needs to focus based on his compliance score on his zone level. All right, let's go one level down. Let's go to the manager, the plant manager of the individual plant. Obviously, they are responsible for the data surrounding the OEE project for their individual plants. So we go to the OEE side here, and again, we're going to deliver them an OEE dashboard, right? Remember, OEE, great strategic KPI. We're going to deliver that to the manager because they need to be able to keep track on if their initiatives are working, yes or no. All right, so what do we see here? As one said, typical OEE dashboard. There's my OEE number. It comprises of availability, performance, and quality. But very important, I'm putting it on a historical frame here. All right, what do I mean with that? I can see historically how my OEE is improving or not. All right, so this is the bar that I see at the bottom. I can see my different OEE numbers. And you'll notice before there, the OEE was very erratic. And only pretty much from a week ago, the OEE started to increase and we're actually on an upwards trend. The green line that you see here is regression analysis that we apply on that OEE number. Okay, very quick and easy way to see that you're on an upward trend by just doing a very simple linear regression on it. You'll notice that the coefficient there of the X is positive, so that means we're going upwards. So whatever you're doing, Mr. Plant Manager, is working. All right. What part of OEE is working? All right, so this is these three lines here: availability, performance, and quality. All right, so if we look at availability here, that's pretty much doing nothing. It's a flat line. You haven't really done anything to solve your availability issues. Okay, let's look at performance. Same here. You're not doing really anything to sort out your performance issues. Quality, there we go. You've increased your quality. Okay, so whatever you've done to increase your quality, you need to go and replicate those projects or replicate the wins that you've achieved there to try and solve your availability and performance issues. Okay, but if I look at this, you might be able to meet your 15% increase if we look at the regulation going forward. All right, but there's a little bit of work to be done to actually get the other components of OEE to a higher level. And that's where you're going to focus on. You're not going to worry about quality issues anymore. You're now going to look at availability and performance issues. Okay. All right. And let's go one level lower, the operator. Remember, operator needs to make a decision every 2 hours on what he needs to do next. All right, so I'm not going to give him a OEE dial. I'm going to give him something we call TAED. All right, target, actual, efficiency, and downtime. Right, so very simple. If we look at the bottom here, this is my hourly throughput coupled with a target line. Right, what is the target for each and every hour that I need to meet? Clearly, we can see that the past 2 hours is below the target line here. So the operator needs to focus for the next 2 hours to get this above the target line. You got it right, quite a long time during the shift, but clearly there's some new problems that crept up here that he needs to address. Okay, what does it mean for my end of day total or end of shift total? This is what we see here. So this is a progressive total of where he should, where he's currently at, the actual of production. Again, coupling it with the daily total or the daily target that he needs to meet. And we're also showing him a regression analysis going into the future, because we want to show him if he's going to continue with this rate, if he's going to hit that target, yes or no. He's very close. So very close to actually getting that target. All right. But there's a big problem here. The efficiency is 0. Right, Vaughan, is this true?
Well, it might be 0 right now, Danny, for the last hour. That's why I like the fact that you're showing me the progression. Clearly something went wrong though, since in the last maybe 2 hours. And if I don't fix it soon, I'm not going to hit my target.
All right. And that's why historical context is important. This is the historical line of efficiency, right? So it's not too bad. Historically, the efficiency is actually not going too bad, but clearly something happened in the past hour that I need to focus on. Okay. That's why we give him downtime analysis. And clearly, you can see we're currently in a downtime event. Okay, so we are currently in downtime. The downtime has been active for the past 48 minutes. So obviously, he got engineering involved and he needs to help and sort him out. Okay, so that is why we coupled downtime to the TAD reporting to show him that he needs to get where he needs to focus and where he needs to call for help. Also, we just show him the shortfall. So what is your current less, or what is your current negative or balance that you need to make up currently for the next hour? So he's got quite a big mammoth task that he needs to try and sort out, before else he's not going to make it. All right, so right information for the operator. He knows in a downtime event, he knows he needs to sort that out, else he's not going to make the next 2 hours target. Okay, all right, now this is all Flow dashboards, right? It's served inside of the Flow browser, but this might not be the place or the media that you want to consume this content. I think one thing that COVID taught us, or is that we spend our life on Zoom and on Teams, right? And that's one thing that we addressed within Flow as well. So from a manager or a team leader perspective, maybe not an operator manages the plant. He's got SCADA tools, he's got historians that he uses for his daily work. But for a manager or a team leader, we might need to deliver this content differently. He might not be at his laptop, he might not be able to open up the web, the Flow server component, or the web to see the actual dashboards. So we need to give that to the team leaders in a different way, in a different form. All right, now, in the past, yes, we could have emailed the report. Again, email is probably not the best way to do it these days. Or we could have used our own Flow mobile app. But due to this whole new way of work, like they call it, we had to shift as well. So what we've done from a notification perspective is we included quite a few new notification tools. All right, so we can send a dashboard or a notification to a Telegram group, right? That's quite popular these days, since Elon Musk tweeted about WhatsApp and Facebook buying them over. Quite a lot of people jumped on the Telegram bandwagon. There's even people in our team that's not even on our WhatsApp groups anymore. But we noticed that, and we brought out a Telegram notification. We also brought out a Microsoft Teams notification. And obviously, we also added in support for Outlook 365. Now, this is important because we're going to deliver this different type of data to the different people and giving it to the different apps and things that they actually use on a day-to-day basis. So what I've done is I've created 2 messages. One for the operators and one for the team leaders. Okay. And let's have a look at the configuration for these guys. So from an operations perspective, obviously we're going to give the guy his TAED message. All right. And do we want to do it at the end of the day for the operator? No, it's probably not going to work, right? Because he's got a 2-hour window. That's all he's got. 2-hour window to solve out his problem. Okay. So what I probably want to do is I want to send him a message when he's got a limit exception, like these 2 hours in the past. So whenever he's got a limit, I want to send him a notification. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to actually delete this guy. And I'm going to create a new trigger here for him. And this time it's going to be a limit exception trigger. Okay, and now I can actually say, you know what? Trigger this guy based on a limit that happened. What limit am I going to choose? Well, obviously, it's going to be his hourly actual production. All right, if that thing is below the target, we are going to create a limit based on that. Simple as that. Okay, so every time that limit exception occurred, it's going to go and process and send it out. I'm just going to change this because it's going to send a whole bunch of messages now when I do that. So I'm just going to change it back so that I can trigger it in a controlled way. Cool. All right. What am I sending him? I am sending him, very simple. I'm sending him the following. You didn't make your hourly target. Okay. And I'm giving him the data about what is his current hourly total, what was the target, and what was the total shortfall that he needs. And I'm sending him the dashboard as well. Okay. But technically, from this data that I'm sending him, he's got all the information that he needs to focus on. All right. Now, what is responsible for sending this out? It is the flow message component or message engine. So I'm just going to make sure that it's active and running. And then I'm going to go and trigger this guy here. All right. So I'm going to trigger it. And it should go and create a new message for me and send it to my Telegram notification service. This is where I hold my breath. And let's go to my phone. All right. So this is my phone. Or is it? Let's have a look. It's not my phone, it's my kid's phone, but nevertheless, let's go to my Telegram app here. There we go. There's Telegram. All right. And let's go to my Flow software bot thing. All right. These are ones that I've sent obviously a little bit earlier in the day. If we're lucky, we'll get the new one popping in quite soon. But this is exactly what the operator will see. He sees his TAED, he sees the actual, he sees his hourly shortfall, and he can see what the actual shortfall is. Now, the great thing is if you are part of this group, you could have manually added a message as well. There we go. There's the new one coming in as a PDF, and it tells you exactly what your shortfall is and what you need to focus on. I can actually open up this PDF. There we go. I can swap my phone here. And I can see exactly there's the issue. Currently, I don't even produce anything for the past hour. All right, so delivering the information to a guy with his phone on his Telegram, probably a little bit social app, but to his Telegram app, nonetheless. Okay, all right. Now the manager, he's probably not going to spend his time on Telegram. He's going to probably look at something else. So for the manager, we need to do it a little bit different, right? For the team leader or the manager, what we're going to do is we're going to send him his OEE score, but we're going to do it in a little bit different way. First of all, we're not going to send it to his Telegram group. He's probably don't even have Telegram. We're going to send it to his Microsoft Teams chat or channel. All right, so we're going to send it to his chat. And what we're going to do is we're going to deliver some different content to it. All right, this time we're going to deliver the OEE content. And we're also going to deliver the Oee dashboard for it. All right. Same story for the manager being strategic. He probably only have to look at this at the end of the day, because that's when he will know if his initiatives or projects are working. And they might even be quite frankly frequent. Probably need to record it every week. But I'm going to trigger this for him now to get a new message. All right. So I'm going to trigger that. It's going to compile and it's going to send it out. All right. Now this is going to send it to Teams. All right, so I've got my Teams app here, and I'm going to go to my Teams channel. So I've got my little flow channel there, and I'm going to send out my communication via Teams. All right, it might take a little bit of time, but it will pop up a new Teams notification here. The nice thing about this one is that we actually keep the history of the messages or the reports. Okay, how do we do that? Because Teams is integrated with SharePoint. So we actually create a little space on your SharePoint drive. So if you go to your files in your Teams channel and you go to documents, you'll notice that there's a little flow folder. There's some messages, and there is my whiteboards must transform message location. And there is all the old PDFs and pictures that we've actually compiled and sent. So we keep a history of that. There's the new one a few seconds ago. That's the one that I've just published now. So if I open it up, it will show me that nice PDF rendered in my Teams, and it's saved and backed up on my SharePoint, which is great. Right, you can customize that location. There we go. So that is exactly the folder location in the SharePoint where we will actually go and push it and save it so you can have a look at it. All right, now, again, obviously I can go back to my phone here and I can go into maybe my Teams app and I will see my flow component there. And there's my daily OEE report with the little picture. Open it up, and I've got the same data delivered to my phone. All right, so again, I can utilize my app, my Teams app, to get the same data. And obviously, I can also browse the files as well. Okay, so that's cool. Again, using my own device, own application, but Flow pushes that information to wherever I need to consume it. Cool. Now, this is still Flow reports. It's still Flow dashboards. It's still Flow data. What if I want to share it to people in a complete different solution or application? Right. We always had the capability to push data out of Flow to other pieces of software that might want to use it. And that was the concept that we had of notification servers, all right, or data consumers. We added in a new one. All right, so now what we can do is we can actually go and push Flow data back to your historian. The first one that we've created is to push back to a Canary historian. So we can take a Flow calculation and push it to a place where people can use the generic tools of the historian to visualize and to show it. Okay, so how would that work? Let's have a look. I've already created a little Canary historian component here, and what I'm doing is I'm pushing it into a data set into the Canary historian called IDA. Right, so if I look at my Canary historian here, very simple. I've got in my historian itself, I've created a little data set called IDA. All right, the data set is a logical place where I can keep a bunch of tags information inside of the Canary historian. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and push out some of the lines data to that Canary data set. All right, I've already done 2 of the lines. So I'm going to go here to line number 3, my South Park line, and I'm going to go and push out the shortfall. Okay, I want to push that number of bottles that it needs to make up to the Canary store. I'll open this guy up, go to the integration here, and literally I'm going to take the Canary historian and drag it onto this guy. Okay, now you can give it a tag name, so you can give it whatever tag name you want, or if you leave it blank, we will utilize the name of the hierarchical name that you've already created into Flow. Right, so you don't have to specify a tag name, but you can if you want to. We can push the values, or we can push comments that you've entered against it as an annotation into that historian as well. I'm just going to leave that blank for now. All right. Cool. And I'm going to deploy it to be active. All right. And it's going to start pushing historical values from the 1st of October into that Canary historian. All right. The component that's responsible for this is the flow integration engine. So I'm just going to enable that guy as well. Now, what we should see inside of Canary is that Flow will create a session inside of the sender service, and there we go, and we will start pushing the tag information out. So 3 tags that I'm currently pushing into Canary, and hopefully, if I'm lucky enough, if I go to that historian, it's busy writing into it, all the historical data. If I open it up, there's the block for today, which is the 1st of December. Here's the 3 tags that I've created for line 1, 2, and then for the different sites. Open it up, and there's all the values being pushed from Flow into the historian. We also add some metadata or some properties to it. So we will add the unit of measure from Flow into it, as well as meta properties. Any model attributes that you've configured on this guy, we will add it as well. And we will tell you how often this thing will update. In this case, every hour, you will get a new result being pushed into it from Flow. Now, the cool thing about this is I can now use their generic trending tool to actually look at this data. Right, so if I go back to my browser, open up a new tab here, and go to Axiom, that is their generic trending tool inside of the Canary historian, and let's create a new trend. Right, so I'm going to add a trend, and I'm going to go to my IDA block, and there's my 3 tags, right, for line 1, 2, and then South Park line 1 as well. Open it up. It's hourly data, so the past hour, I probably need to give it a few days of worth of time range to look at the data. And there we go. There's all my shortfall information inside of the Canary trending tool. And now I can use their default functionality to quickly have an analysis. So I'm going to edit the tag quickly, and I'm going to say, you know what, just show me every time that the shortfall was below 0, and change the color of it, and maybe fill it in. There we go. All right, doesn't look good, right? it's pretty much under 0 for most of the time. All right, but again, utilizing their visualization tools to very quickly give you the same picture, and it's in the same place where the operator would probably look at other trends, or the engineer would look at other trends to try and figure out why the shortfall is so good or so big. All right, so
what I like about what you've done there is, as you say, if we think about our operator workstations, they usually got their SCADA screens, they've got their trend in one of the panels there. And now you've brought in information, the shortfall number that that historian couldn't get from the PLC, because it needs the target, which is probably coming from an ERP system. But Flow's married the data together, and you've put it down right to the operator. That's very nice.
Correct. What we see a lot as well is that the Canary historian's got a brilliant API that people use. They use the API to build other visualization with other tools again, and now it's a one place that you can actually get that calculated data as well. You don't have to query 2 APIs to actually get the information from. So that's also great from an integration perspective. So yeah, I just quickly wanted to show you guys that to deliver data to not only people in a certain way to make the decisions and act on, but also different applications, and also even a complete different solution, and use their tools and training capability to do that with the new integration engine or services as well. All right, so I hope that showed you guys a little bit on exactly that point. Make sure that when you do these things, that you give it to the right people in the right context, and deliver it to where they can very easily make their decisions as well. All right, that was it for the little bit of the demo and the technical side. Just going to quickly talk about enablement. What's new from the enablement side? Vaughan is definitely the more handsome picture of the guy in the pictures there. But what we've got is we've got some new videos inside of on the website. So please go to flow-software.com to see that. Under the resource tab, you will see these new videos. I made a video explaining Flow is just another reporting tool, covering the concepts of silos of information, how we handle that, how do we add the context to the data as well. So please go and check that video out. The previous video that I've done around the information part, where I spoke about the little dwarfs and the way that we display the data, that is in the Where is my data little video there. And then Vaughan and I did a little bit of a video as well on the new features of version 4.5. This little conversation that we had tonight will also be available in the future on the resources tab as well. All right. From a support perspective, currently we're sitting on version 4. Sure. No, my dyslexic brain can't say this. Vaughan, please enlighten me. 5.4. All right, so 5.4, we released it literally a few weeks ago. Again, we actually added quite a big amount of features on this one. So the data consumer to push the data to Canary that I've just shown, that's in this latest version. The support for Teams is in this version. The support for Telegrams is in this version. The support for Outlook 365 is in this version. So it's really not a small release that we've done, quite a lot of new features that we packed into this one. And I like this one a lot as well. And that is that we actually can drill down into the raw data that's coming from the historian and show you what the raw data was when we actually created a KPI as well. So please check it out. Please go to our support website and you can download the latest version from the support website as well. One, we're very close to another little bit of a, we call it a patch release or a service pack release that will be available. Again, just a few fixes that we put in that, but please keep the support website in check. In the next week or so, we'll probably then release another version with some checks and fixes that we've added in there as well. All right, that is what I've got for tonight. If there's any questions, we can address some Q&A right now, or we can address the Q&As a little bit later. I don't know, Vaughan, I haven't really looked at the Q&As. If there's any questions at this point in time.
There aren't any open questions at the moment.
Cool. Perfect. So speak now or forever hold your peace. All right, cool guys. If there's no questions, there we go. There's a question. Let's have a look. Thanks, David. It's David just saying thanks for the webinar. Cool guys. If you've got any questions, I'm sure everybody on the call has my and Vaughan's details. Please get us involved or log a ticket to our support website. We will always respond. And with that, I want to say thank you to everybody for joining us this evening or morning, wherever you are in the world. But thanks a lot. And then I will see you guys early in the next year for a brand new series and a brand new conversation. Cool. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Vaughan.
Thanks, Lenny. Thanks, guys.